The Atlanta Braves have 2 goals on Father's Day. Call your dad and then secure a sweep of the first place Milwaukee Brewers. Here's your 15-minute scouting report for today's game. Yes, this is your Braves Today Scouting Report, a production of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm Lindsey Crosby. In the next 15 minutes, we're breaking down everything you need to know before first pitch. Today, it's the Braves and the Milwaukee Brewers in the series finale. So let's get into it. Both teams have put out their lineup for the game, starting with our Atlanta Braves on Father's Day. Left fielder Mauricio Dubon is leading off, followed by designated hitter Drake Baldwin. Second baseman Ozzie Albies batting third. Matt Olson at first base batting cleanup. It's not a thing he's done a ton this year. They try to guarantee he gets an at-bat in the first inning, but he's batting cleanup today. Center fielder Michael Harris batting fifth, who, happy Father's Day. This is his first Father's Day. So, Michael, happy Father's Day to you. Austin Riley at third base batting sixth. Newly acquired Joey Bart, who obviously Braves are 2-0 in the Joey Bart era, batting seventh. Eli White is in the game in right field, batting eighth. And Ha-Seong Kim checks back into the lineup at shortstop, batting ninth. Dubon, Baldwin, Albies, Olson, Harris, Riley, Bart, White, and Kim. On the mound for the Atlanta Braves, Bryce Elder. 5-4, 3.15 ERA. And it's mostly earned, right? 3.25 expected ERA, 3.76 fielding independent pitching. Not a ton of success on the roster against him for Milwaukee. Bryce Turang's 4 for 10 with a homer and 2 RBI, kind of like the thing there. But what I want to talk about is, does Bryce Elder get back into the groove of things today? His last 4 starts, the team is 2-2, but he's put up a 7.20 ERA because he had a 3 1/3 inning blow up in Boston, and then he had a 4 inning 6-run blow up in New York, sandwiched around 2 quality starts. And that pushed his ERA from 1.97 before that stretch to 3.15 now. And when you dive into what he's doing differently, the thing that stands out to me is this new version of Bryce Elder had gotten where he was throwing a lot more four-seamers and a lot less sinkers against lefties. Going into today's game, his primary pitch to left-handed pitchers is a four-seamer, and the sinker is at 10% usage. And as recently as last season, the sinker was still the main pitch. And in the last couple games, he's cut the four-seam usage from a high of 40% down to 15. And the sinker usage has spiked. The sinker's still his primary pitch to righties. Sinker slider is 84% of what he does to righties. But to lefties, he was throwing a lot more sinkers and a lot less four-seamers. Is that an adjustment because he didn't have the four-seamer, or was he trying to get back to the sinker and generating more ground balls, and it didn't work? So we'll find out today. Really curious to see how he makes the adjustment. The lineup for the Milwaukee Brewers is kind of similar. After a day off, Christian Yelich checks back into the game, leading off at DH. So he got the day off yesterday versus Chris Sale, but he's back in there today against a righty. Jackson Chourio in left field batting second. Bryce Turang, the second baseman, batting third. William Contreras behind the plate catcher, batting cleanup. First base is Jake Bowers batting fifth. Center fielder Garrett Mitchell is in the lineup at sixth. Sal Frelick checks into the lineup batting seventh. He's in right field. Again, platoon situation thing there. They don't have him face lefties. Cooper Pratt, shortstop, batting eighth. And then David Hamilton checks in place of Joey Ortiz at third base, batting ninth. The starter for Milwaukee, Bob Gass. Left-hand pitcher Robert Gasser. 0-3, 4.88 ERA. The nickname Bob Gass is a little bit of a joke. His fastball average is 92, but it's just fun. Bob Gass is just a fun name to say, right? 4.88 ERA on the season, and it's a really weird ERA estimators. Expected ERA 3.33, fielding independent pitching 6.10. Huge difference there, and the reason for that is he is legitimately one of the worst pitchers in baseball in general, not just starters, at getting ground balls. 24.6% ground ball rate for Bob Gass is first percentile in baseball. So FIP sees, it sees the home runs, it sees the below average walk rate, it sees the worse than average walk rate. It sees the strikeout rate being kind of and it's a little concerned about that. But expected ERA sees that the average exit velo he allows is 89th percentile as far as how low it is. His hard hit rate, 95th percentile as far as how low it is. And then want to point out too, off the StatCast card, the extension of 6.9 feet does let the fastball play up from that 92 miles an hour. So he's letting a lot of batted balls in the air, but they typically don't have the exit velocity to be home runs. Now, we saw last night, Ozzie Albies popped a couple opposite field homers. The last one was not even a hard hit ball. It was not even 95 miles an hour. So I'm still hopeful you're going to see some homers today, simply because in Truist Park, especially if you're a lefty, it doesn't take a great swing to get a ball out of the ballpark into the chop house. But just know going in, he's going to allow a lot of fly balls, but they typically won't have enough behind them to get out. It's a 5-pitch mix. He's throwing all 3 fastballs. His primary breaking ball is a sweeper. And then after that, he does have a changeup. And so when you look at his performance against, handedness and all of that kind of stuff, whenever you see a guy who has a sweeper, you always have to be a little bit concerned about what are they going to do in platoon situations, right? What are they going to do against like the handedness things here? Righties hit Bob Gass to 727 OPS. Now, this is 5 starts. This is a small sample size. 727 OPS for righties. 1055 OPS against lefties. It's a 1 OPS against lefties. So your left-handed hitters are going to have an opportunity to get balls in the air. They're going to be able to get, to hopefully get some home runs, and you're going to be able to put some runs on the board. The question's going to come down to, can Bryce Elder hold them down? The way that he attacks these hitters, by the way, those lefties are seeing a bunch of sweepers. It's his primary pitch, followed right there behind it by sinkers. And the pitch usage is kind of what you would expect. It's a 4-pitch mix. He rarely throws the changeup left on left. That's kind of common, right? Because it's just going to break in towards them. But he ramps up the sweeper and the 4-seam usage when he's ahead in the count. He ramps up the 4-seamer and the changeup when he has 2 strikes. A little interesting little wrinkle there. Both of those increases in usage come at the expense of the sinker and the cutter. And then he cuts the sweeper and 4-seam usage when he's behind to throw that sinker and cutter, right? It's something like almost 70% of all his pitches when he's behind are going to be a sinker or a cutter. So like it is a very pronounced tendency. Same thing when he's ahead, over 70% of his pitches are going to be 4-seam or sweeper. It's very strong adjustments based on at-bat context. So something to know about there. Righties, very kind of similar significant changes based on at-bat context. He doesn't really use the 4-seamer a bunch unless he's ahead or has 2 strikes, like it's less than 10%. But then when he's ahead or with 2 strikes, it ramps up somewhere between 32 and 37%, right? Sweeper usage. He does throw that more early in the count. The only time he really doesn't use that sweeper to righties is when he's behind, because he really ramps up the cutter usage when he's behind. But ahead, 2 strikes, you're righty, you're gonna see sweepers. When you're behind, again, it's cutters and sinkers. He does throw a surprising number of sinkers before he gets to 2 strikes. Like Not when he's ahead, but, a 1-0 count, a 2-1 count, a 1-1, a 3-1, whatever. It's just interesting how many sinkers he throws in those situations as well. His put away pitches against righties, sweepers, four seamers. Together, it's math in my head here. It's like 72% usage of those two pitches. The changeup, you don't really have to worry about in that situation. The cutter, you don't really have to worry about. You get some sinkers, but not a lot, right? Sweeper, four seamers, how he wants to put you away if you're a righty. And when you're looking at tendencies in the at-bat, lefties, it's pretty even. Are you going to get a first pitch ball or a strike? He might get behind you, not a big deal. Righties, there's a very, very, very strong preference to throw you a first pitch strike. He really wants to throw you a first pitch strike if you're a righty. And we've seen Atlanta in this series be aggressive at swinging early in the count, ambushing pitches early. We saw it a lot against Jacob Mizorowski. We saw it last night against Kyle Harrison, just trying to not get behind and let these guys open up their breaking balls. So you're going to see Atlanta, especially the righties, being aggressive against Bob Gass, hopefully getting some balls in the air. Hopefully we can pepper that bullpen out there by the left field foul pole. Bullpen status for both teams. The Braves are in a pretty good place. Most of the medium leverage arms, Renato Lopez, Dylan Dodd, your long man, Carlos Carrasco, all those guys haven't pitched in this series. They haven't pitched since like Tuesday or Wednesday. James Karinchak did throw 11 pitches last night, beginning to move him up the tree of trust a little bit. I think he's officially in the tree of trust. He's not higher than your Lee and your Fuentes and your Iglesias and Suarez and all that, but he's probably even with Dylan Dodd right now in the tree of trust. On the leverage arms, all four of them have worked in this series. Suarez, Fuentes, Lee, and Iglesias. Suarez had yesterday off after throwing 28 pitches on Friday. He should be good to go today. Didier Fuentes threw 28 yesterday. I would imagine the goal is to not need him today. If you can get 6 out of Elder, you could see them do something where, they use Suarez, they use Iglesias, maybe they bring Karinchak back or somebody else. Dylan Lee is coming off a back-to-back. He's thrown 27 pitches over the last 2 games. I imagine if Walt Weiss had his way, he wouldn't have to use Fuentes and he wouldn't have to use Lee. But if they go to one of them, I'm guessing maybe Fuentes is the one they go to just to try to get an extra inning there. You let Suarez and Iglesias wrap this one up, and then you get the sweep. They're not going to sacrifice a sweep just to give Lee or Fuentes rest. But again, perfect world, I imagine that's how they want to do it. You look at the Brewers bullpen. It's fun for them, right? A lot of them, because they haven't used them in this series. Every game has been exceptionally everybody, right? Craig Yoho threw it Thursday and Friday. So the end of the last series, first game of this series, he was off yesterday. He's likely back today. Abner Uribe's coming off a back-to-back, but it's only 21 pitches. Is Pat Murphy willing to use him in a third straight game, given how small that workload was yesterday? We don't really know. Lefty Aaron Ashby, the losing pitcher last night, blew it in the ninth, gave up the home run to Ozzie. He only threw 14 pitches. He's able to come back. Trevor Megill, 8 pitches yesterday. He's able to come back. They've got the pieces they need. The medium leverage guys are rested. The high leverage guys have all worked, and the pitch counts aren't onerous, but the big deal is Atlanta has seen them. You've already, it's no matter which high leverage arm is out there, somebody in that dugout has seen them in the last 2 days and can go to whoever's on deck and say, hey, watch for this, watch for that. Here's what it looked like coming in. And those little kind of things end up being the difference in a very close matchup like this. These two teams are very evenly matched. We'll see what happens. Final thoughts on this one. Braves Today sponsor FanDuel has the Braves favored in this game. Over-under's 9 runs. So they're expecting a little bit of run production today outside of the first 2 games of the series. For me, this comes down to Bryce Elder, right? Again, last 4 starts, 2 have been good, quality starts, 2 have not. Both the bad ones were on the road. So what happens there? Can Bryce Elder kind of right the ship and get back to the early season form? More four-seamers, less sinkers in that handedness situation, and do all of that. Bob Gass, can the lefties punish? Lefties have a 655 OPS against Robert Gasser this year. Can the lefties that are in the lineup, can they find a way to take care of business? This is your Drake Baldwin. This is your Matt Olson. This is your Michael Harris. Those are the only three true lefties you have. But they're batting second, fourth, and fifth for a reason, right? What can they do today against the lefty and Robert Gasser? That's your Braves Today scouting report. If you want the deeper analysis, the lineup breakdowns, and everything behind the numbers, make sure you're subscribed to Braves Today. Enjoy the game. We'll be back after it with the postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta. And today's three things are game recap over at bravestoday.com. There's a great comment, by the way, here live on YouTube. Looks like Lindsay's dog gets bandit, got wiped out by the last two home games. No, he got wiped out because he stole my Father's Day steak off the counter before breakfast. That's why he's wiped out right now. He stole my steak. Happy Father's Day to you. I hope your steak that you had for breakfast was fantastic because I didn't get one. Thanks, Bandit. Talk to you guys after the game.